Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and I haven't done one of these for a while, so I might be a little bit rusty. Everyone who likes the show, watches the show regularly, knows how much I love a good Kickstarter, and I have got yet another peach project that we love, written by the super talented and creator, writer, Mr. Michael S. Katz. Michael, thank you so much for spending the time.
Thanks for having me, Johnny. Appreciate it.
You are more than welcome, sir. In your little shrine to everything bat orientated in that room, I see.
Yeah, it's hard to see,
stuff.
but I got some bat stuff behind me.
Always a winner when you come on with bat stuff.
Batman's number one for me.
Excellent. Michael, you've got a book coming out. It's on Kickstarter right now. As the time of recording, you've got 20 days to go. You are more than 2/3 of the way through, I believe, for funding. You must be really
Close.
pleased at that. Yeah,
we're close.
Yeah, cool. Tell us about the story. What's going on? What's the book about?
The book is called Horror Show, and it is a horror book.
Great marketing. Great marketing on that one.
Yeah. This is the first horror book I've done. I started out, I did some sci-fi, I did some superhero work.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just a one-shot graphic novel that really came to me, in whole cloth. It's not easy when you're doing comics, but I try to make it, suspenseful and action-packed and character-driven all at the same time.
Those are some hefty plates to be swinging around. Especially in a horror book. I always think horror is quite hard to do in a comic book, because we watch horror on TV or in the movies, and there's so much of it is moody lighting and the door that swings shut and the door that swings open and the music changes and all that. That's pretty hard to do. In a comic book. Sci-fi, as I said, you just swing for the hills. Anything goes in sci-fi, right? So how do you kind of have to then, I suppose, deconstruct horror to get it to work on the comic book page?
It's all in the pacing, and your artist is very important.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have that symbiotic relationship, and luckily, I've got one of the all-time greats in Darryl Banks working with me, and he pretty much knew what I was picturing in my head when I told him in the script.
Cool.
And he did this perfect job of putting everything on the page for me. And you have to pace in terms of turning pages, in terms of changing panels, in terms of speeding up or slowing down, using dialogue and caption boxes. So you have to come up with all these tricks, and it's not easy. I started out, I wrote my first novel in 2002, prose, and I've done some horror fiction as well over the years. And I actually did a book where I call it translating some of the classic horror authors into modern day language.
Okay.
It's called Horror's Classic Masters Remastered. So I had like Edgar Allan Poe and Robert Louis Stevenson and a lot of those Ambrose Bierce.
Lovely.
And
so that's not a mouthful at all, is it? Horror Masters Remastered.
Yeah. But it's a lot easier to craft horror when you're doing it when you have unlimited number of words.
True.
And when people can't see ahead, you know, you're stuck with, you know, pretty much the words you're reading at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the book, you got to be careful not to ruin
Mm.
any surprises.
Yeah, you've got to get if you're going for that kind of shock, you've
Mhm.
got to get it on the page turn, because that's the
Right.
only place it's going to be, right? Whereas if you're reading a prose novel, you know, I've got quite a vivid imagination, and if I'm
Mhm.
reading a horror book, even something as innocent as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, some of that Christopher Golden stuff, it just, I'm reading it, and it scares the living pants off me, because my
Mhm.
mind's like running overtime. You know what I'm saying? A
Right.
comic book, it can. I think this is horror as a general thing. It can seem a little less fraught, but that's where the writing comes in, because you've got to get into the characters. You've got
Mhm.
to get into what drives the characters, and sometimes it's their journey that's horrific, rather than the kind of jump scare monster stuff.
Right.
So it's like a different kind of beast, different kind of energy.
Yeah. You also need different kinds of power.
Yeah.
You know, not everything is in your face
Mm.
monster stuff. There's small bits of horror. I don't know if you've read it yet.
Oh, I have. I
Oh,
have.
okay.
I read it earlier today,
Great.
and I was pleasantly surprised, and that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to
Okay.
spoil it. So what we're
Right.
going to do, we're going to take a quick look on your Kickstarter page. You've got this video trailer, so let's get this up and running so people can have a look at what we're talking about. This is the trailer for your book, and here it goes. Wow. I'm like, wow. That pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Pretty much. Well, it gives you the interesting bits, we should say.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I approach it like a movie. You know, I try and think of
Uh-huh.
it, you know, cinema and scope,
Mhm.
and all the greats. You know, they don't want to show you the monster right off the bat.
No.
So I tried to wait till the last minute to show you exactly what kind of monster you're dealing with, and then even later exactly what the monster fully looks like.
Mm. It's. I loved reading the book. There's a couple of things. First of all, let's just say straight away off the bat, pardon the phrase, it is based in time-wise, it's in the 70s, right?
Right.
So there's going to be language in there and ideas of society that people might get a little bit, oh, you can't say that nowadays. Well, that's because it was based in the 70s. So the type of language that was around then is in this book. Bear that in mind when you start reading it.
Right.
That's what I'll say now. And you know what, I welcome that, Michael. I think if you're setting a book in the 70s, then the people have got to look like they're from the 70s. You know, I was looking at the cover earlier when we was up there, and I'm thinking, oh my god, look at those David Soul glasses that he's got going on. You know, I mean, now
Right.
he's going to start singing "Pretty Lady" at me or whatever. Silver Lady, wasn't it? Silver Lady. There you go. Show my age. But the thing that absolutely got me, and it's kind of, and it's alluded to in your trailer there. You've got the obvious monsters versus the non-obvious monsters, and the
Right.
two are kind of, they're always. It's funny because you feel comfortable with one, but not comfortable with the other.
Mhm.
How hard was that sort of like bipolar-esque contrast hard to kind of create, and then not just create but maintain through the book, because it's a one shot. So this is one and done, but it's 48 pages. So
Yeah. Yeah. You always wish you could have more, you know. Yeah, I mean, budget constraints do exist. Um, and I don't want to, price the book out of existence either. But yeah, sure, it would have been nice if I had another 48 pages to tell the story.
I think the page count's spot on. I've got to say, I thought
Great. Appreciate it.
I thought 48 pages pretty much the pace of the book works really well. I think if it was any shorter, it would have felt rushed. I think if it was any longer, I think there would have just been padding for padding's sake.
Right.
As it is, because it's a horror themed book, and you can't have shocks every panel, because of its kind of nature, and it being 48 pages, you have to be concise, you have to get there. And I think that works really well. The pace works well. You get an introduction to the characters, you get the setups, you get the follow-throughs, and you get the ramifications. When you talk about how to write a story, surely that's all we want, right? I mean, we can't always be The Empire Strikes Back, which is a middle, and a middle, can we?
Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, there is a balancing act between the real horrors and the supernatural horrors, and you have to have enough space to fit each type in without going overboard one way or the other.
That's a good call. That is a good call. Which did you find easier, right? The supernatural stuff. We're not going to go into too many details of what the supernatural stuff is, because you've got to buy the book. You know what I'm saying? Or was it the more kind of down to earth, real life kind of horrors?
The supernatural stuff is probably easier to do. The real life horrors, you want to be as realistic as possible. And every comic needs to be grounded in reality to some extent. And even a monster book, you've got to have as much realism as possible. So because people can only take so much before they're like, oh my god, forget it.
Yeah, don't even get me started about some of the stuff I've seen. Yeah, there is some jumping of sharks going on. Not in this book, I hasten to add. All right, I'm putting that out there now. This book reads brilliantly. I love the relationships. So you've got our hero or villain, who knows? Got the waitress. You've kind of got the rowdy customers, stroke hunters. Look, I've got another name for them, but it's a polite show, so I can't say that. And then, of course, all tied up in that is the situation that they find themselves in. How hard was it to kind of, when you think of the horror of the real situation, the real horror, did you strive to make elements of that uncomfortable, to make the reader feel like, oh my god?
Oh, definitely.
There's some aspects in there that do have, admittedly, stretched to the extreme, but there are elements in there that could be seen as affected by actual real world elements.
Yeah, you're talking about the hero's background.
Yeah, I'm talking. Well, you know what? I'm talking about lots of little things on this one. The hero's background, for a start, definitely. The use of a certain word as a slur in there.
And just so you know, my son is. So that helps me base myself.
Yeah.
And kind of put my own emotions on the page.
Perfect. And you know what? I get that. I read that in the character when he reacts to that. And now the idea of how the hunters treat the waitress, for example. All these things are real life things that can happen on any given day.
Sure.
To any number of people. That's what makes, I suppose, the book a little bit uncomfortable, because that could be happening where I go and get a cup of coffee. That could be happening where I go and get my pizza or
Right.
whatever, you know. And it's just having it in the comic book, I think, helps create awareness of that without being preachy. Because I think there's quite a lot of, you know, do as I say in comic books nowadays that never probably wasn't when, you know, when Jim Aparo and Neil Adams were tearing up on Batman and Brave and the Bold. It was just comic books then, right? So that uncomfortableness, it's a very brave choice to try and take on some of those things. Did we? You mentioned your son, but other aspects, were you cognizant of the fact that you are making a choice, that you are making a stand against some of the things that you say?
Yeah. I mean, it's got small aspects of morality play in the book.
Yes.
You know, I think no matter who you are as a writer, your character is going to have one of the voices in your own head. I think every writer has multiple voices, and each character is just at least one of those voices, if not more. And everything you write comes out of the mind up here and manifests itself on the page. So everything I write is something I somehow believe in.
Yeah, interesting indeed. Right. On that note, we shall take a break from one of our other shows. Now, before we got going, you mentioned we had a quick brief chat about Aparo and Adams. So I take it back in the day, Michael used to be the DC guy.
Yes. I mean, I first started reading Marvel Super Action, which was the reprints of the Kirby Captain America.
Yeah.
But I always liked DC better.
Oh, don't get many of that on the show, I must admit. Right then, in that case, time for our longest advert. I'm really sorry about this, but it's our DC show, The Definitive Crusade. Check it out. There you have it, one of our longest running shows, The Definitive Crusade, aimed at everything DC. There you go. We even talk about the recent Crisis cartoon. There you go. Take it or leave it. What can I say? Last episode, or the newest episode, dropped on, let me just check my dates. It is Tuesday, the 6th of February. Go check it out where you follow your UCPN videos. Right. Michael, we would be remiss if we don't talk about the art of the book. You were kind enough to send me some pages over. I've read it. I absolutely loved it. Your artist is DC legend Darryl Banks, correct?
Yep.
I have to let you in a little bit of serendipity on this. We have a show called The Old Timers Comic Book Show, and it looks at comics that are 25 years old or longer. And we recently took a quick swipe at 1994, and my colleague, the professor, picked the Green Lantern numbers, volume 3, 48 through 50, which of course has got Daryl's, megalomaniac howling cover on. So I was like, talk about serendipity, right? This is Daryl more up to date. This is the start of the book. Oh, it looks scary. Look at all that snow. I'm cold just looking at it, man.
The snow was very important. I wanted it. Well, part of it is because of the creature is usually in snowy settings, but also that snowy atmosphere makes for I think it makes you feel colder just looking at it.
Agreed, absolutely. I remember I said to my wife, it's not Christmas until I've watched the Denver Broncos at home against the whichever town they are Raiders. That's when you know it's winter, when you're watching a game from Denver.
Right.
Lovely setup for this. Love the dog. The artwork so well. I love the shadows. Do you know what I think the snow does? I think it gives it a clean look. It gives it that kind of no smells type of thing. That just everything is fresh look, which is cool. What type of writer are you, Michael? Are you a full script writer, or do you just kind of give hints and tips like the traditional Marvel style?
No, I'm the DC school. I'm the full script writer. Come up with everything. Come up with with photo reference for the artist, so they don't have to do the research themselves.
Okay, cool.
I want to hand them everything, and then for the most part, Daryl stuck to the script, to the number of panels, but he handles the layout himself and the sizing, and once in a while he would change the number of panels per page, and I have to change the script, which isn't easy when you're stuck at 48 pages. You don't want to go farther, but it worked. We had a good rapport.
How I mentioned that the book's set in the 70s. Reading the book, there's quite an old style of writing to this, in that you've got all these word bubbles going on. Now modern comics don't have this. It's like, that's a lot of reading. Are you worried that the modern day comic book readers just go too many words?
I think we need more words. We're not paying for sketchbooks here. We're paying for stories.
Yeah. I no complaint from me. I enjoyed it. It was great. It was a great read. I love the idea that there is actual method behind the visual madness, as it were, and I think this book carries that really well.
Right. Definitely. And I think this page and the last page kind of show you a little about pacing, where you've got to deal with the you don't have too much on this page, and then you've got more on the next page, but you still don't know everything that there is to know.
And I think this is kind of where the page turn works so well, because at this page you're like, oh my god, something's happening to him, and then automatically you want to flip that page, to see what it is. So that works really well.
And my letterer did a great job. Keith Champagne, who's the inker from DC Comics and writer for a number of companies. He really just started doing lettering like a year and a half ago, I think, and he just does an amazing job. Everything he tries, he does well.
Yeah, the lettering's an unforgotten. It's a forgotten art for sure. I think it can make or break a comic, very much like refs in football. Just saying. A very ambitious setup on this page with the cafe restaurant scene going on there. Lots of different moving parts. lots of visual continuity to keep in play. Who does that visual continuity? Do you rely on Dow to do that, or have you as a writer become kind of a pseudo editor by default?
When I do the script, I try to envision as much of the picture of each panel as I can, so I can tell Daryl, this is the setting, and then I let him go for it. For example, first shot is exterior of a diner. That's easy enough to do, and then the second shot, I want him to show tables on the one side, bar on the other, hero
jukebox at the
here,
corner,
jerks here, and it's up to him to fit everything into these panels, and he and Keith, and Keith had to fit all the lettering, all the words into these panels too, which isn't easy.
I read somewhere that the artists, when they create comic book art, I'm going to see if I can do this. Let's just see. A little bit too. Yeah, that's fine. So when the comic book artist does art, they try and leave, where my mouse is here, they try and leave the non-action scenes around the edges of the panel. So there's nothing up there really either. So that way, when you put the letters on top, you're not actually hiding anything.
Right.
So whilst you've got your pace for your script, the artist has got their pace for what they want to show on the page. But then the artist also has to be mindful of creating dead space, as it were, to get the letters in there. You can't be like page to page bleed with lots of information on there. Hell, it's not George Perez, right?
Yeah, you can tell the more experienced artists keep that in mind better than the newer artists.
That's a shout. That is a
for example, I did the Golden Years with Kevin Maguire, and and he's got nice clean panels, and then I got some newer guys who've gone on to do work for Marvel and DC, and they didn't make it as easy to fit the word balloons in the panel, so you got to go back and change the dialogue sometimes.
Yeah, and you got to think, surely by that point the dialogue should be the last thing that goes on, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And as a writer, you hate losing a single word.
Yeah. That's interesting, because you got to think there'll be certain key words dotted within either the monologue or the dialogue that you have to keep in there to keep the reader on board. I love the TV show Sherlock, with Benedict, I can't say his
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love that show. But I hate it at the end where he turns around and solves the crime and he goes, this. I'll go back and I watch the show at the start and I can't see what he looks at.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to be able to see it and feel it, right? I don't need it to be like hidden and then like, ta-da. Let's have a look at your Kickstarter, where we're at. We had a look at the trailer earlier. Let me just refresh the page so we get a bang up to date where we are. It's going round. Right, so this is in pounds because I'm in the UK. Let's translate this up. So you've raised $2,620 for your $5,000 goal. You have got 67 backers. You've got 20 days to go at the time of recording. So that's pretty good. That's not not a million miles away from there.
Well, my last book was a sci-fi book, but I mean it was also had not safe for work elements, and that had over 330 backers.
Well, because you said
so there's some crossover not happening.
Well, I can tell you what that is. It's a four letter anagram that pretty much acronym. Sorry, that is kind of I found browsing through Kickstarters that there is probably more not suitable for work stuff on there than not.
Right.
To be honest, and the old adage of sex selling, yeah, that still works.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think if you I think there's some truth in that,
Mhm.
So let's have a look and see what we get. So you can do your normal pledges. Let's see. $1 because you love it. Good call. $14 gets you the digital version, which is 48 pages of the book.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of bonus making of material.
Cool.
So I'm not sure how many pages the book will wind up being, but the story itself is 48.
I didn't realize that edited by Ron Mars. That's
Oh yeah,
impressive. That's impressive indeed. I've interviewed Ron. Very good guy. Very good guy.
yeah. He and Daryl wrote. I started out doing the Riots Earp comic,
Oh, okay.
and he and Daryl did a story for that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I like how you've given a PDF from the outgo. The reason being is I like chipping in for Kickstarters, but I don't. If it's like I don't mind dropping the $5 or the $10 or whatever it is, but then when it comes out and it's cost me $25 to get it shipped over, then it becomes cost prohibitive. So as much as I prefer real comics over digital, the fact that you get a digital one is always going to get me as an international shopper. So
Right.
Well done on that.
And it's easier for us.
Yeah, and that's another thing I think about is that it costs money to ship books out. So who's paying for that? Am I paying for that? Are you subsidizing part of that as a creator?
Sometimes, yeah, I'm subsidizing.
Yeah, and I don't want you to subsidize it. I want you to make the money that you deserve for making a great book. So I probably would go digital for that reason as well. So, $21 gets you the book itself plus the digital. That's the print version. Ships anywhere in the world. Good luck with that.
Yeah. I've shipped from everywhere from Singapore to Sweden.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's the variant cover we looked at. You saw it earlier on the trailer. Quite like that. This cover reminds me of very Pamela Greer, Misty Night type of thing going on. Yeah, I like that. And that's $25. The Christmas Bat. What on earth is this?
That's a children's book I did a couple years ago. This is the Strider Nolan sampler. You get 4 books from our back catalog.
Okay.
It could be that book, could be the one, one of the novels I wrote years ago, could be something written by somebody else.
Cool.
Whatever we have on hand.
Maybe you find a better way to sell it that way then, yeah? Just the stuff lying around, right? No, I'm going to say that. I apologize.
It's all right.
Retailers here, so shops can get involved and get this book sold for you. Excellent.
Yeah.
A decent markup, so they get some profit of it. Well done.
Right.
Commission. Digital books, you'll get commission pencil. You'll be able to select any character you like. Wow.
Yeah, get them to draw yourself.
No, I have no problems looking at myself in the mirror. It's got a history with Green Lanterns. I'd probably go with Jessica Cruz.
Gotcha.
Yeah. See her in the maniacal pose of 15 different rings or whatever.
Right.
That's cool.
You know how many times Daryl must have drawn that?
Yeah, I know.
And he never gets tired of it. He told me he never gets tired of it.
Do you know what I found really interesting? And this was a Comic Con a couple of years ago, Thought Bubble, down in the UK. I was walking around and the couple of creators were there, and someone had paid. I don't know how much they paid, but they paid for a Venom commission. And I think I've told this story before in a different show. And the person in question had to Google Venom to get the art. And then I went back later on. I saw the picture they were looking at. I was like, oh, interesting. So I must be just doing it for reference, sort of thing. Yeah. Look, a couple of hours later, walked around, and there she handing the picture of it. It's like a carbon copy of whatever was on. They looked at the internet. I'm like, somehow, if I was a fan of an artist, I wouldn't want them to draw something I've already seen. I'd want them to draw something,
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I
If you got all
understand.
that, if you got all that talent, right? Use it. That's kind of how
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah. Be yourself.
Yeah, always. Yeah. Early birds, print version, digital. There you go, $17. Excellent. So you get some preview pages. We've looked at a couple.
Hmm.
Although mine went with dialogue, so everyone got some credits there.
Hmm.
I'm not showing too much. Look at that. I do like that one. What is it that got you into comic books? Is it just the fact that you're a fan of comic books yourself, or
Yeah.
wait a second, back up. Is that an Eagles jersey you're wearing?
Yes, it is.
Oh.
Philly boy, born and raised.
On the playground is where you spent most of your days, right?
Well, look at when you look at the cover of the book
Right.
and tell me who that looks like.
Um,
Does the movie Nighthawks ring a bell?
no, it's a little bit. No, I don't think so. I don't remember
Oh,
that one.
think of Philly. When you think of Philly, you think of Stallone.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I can see it now.
He was
Yeah.
this movie Nighthawks with Billy D. Williams, and Rutger Hauer was the bad guy. Great movie.
I shall take your word for that. Oh dear, excellent. And then, okay, these are all the other things.
Right.
Yeah, add-ons you can get.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's Metalhead was very successful. Riot Earp is my ongoing.
Yeah. Cool.
Golden Years was my superhero tour de force.
What genre do you prefer?
I quite prefer the just the adventure. Like Riot Earp it's set in the future, but it's not too futuristic.
Uh-huh.
It's more of an action oriented, but I try to keep it as grounded as possible. So there's what could happen 35 years from now. I try and make it as realistic because things don't change as fast as they do in the movies and in literature. Things go very slowly. So
I had this conversation not so long ago.
uh,
But my wife was ill, and when she's ill, I said, oh, what film would make you feel better? She goes, oh, can we watch Star Wars? I'm already on a dead deal because I know which one she means. She wants to watch the one with the teddy bears in. And I hate watching the one with the teddy bears in. Well, anyhow, we're watching it on Disney Plus, right? And the Death Star gets blown up. Shocker. The Emperor dies. And then the camera pans because it's a special edition. It
right.
pans to all the different planets,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all celebrating, right? I'm like, that wouldn't happen. The government is still in place. Governments just don't change overnight.
Yeah.
It's like, in fact, you've got to think about the time difference between hyperspace and normal space. How long does it take to get from one place to another? There's no way a Death Star blowing up frees Coruscant from its imperial stronghold.
That's a good
Not
point.
a chance.
Yeah.
It's like, sorry if I've spoiled Star Wars for everybody, but come on. Come on. It's not the West Wing. Excellent. So you've got to bear in mind there's elements of realism. You've got to get, for me, it's the character stuff. So if you're doing sci-fi, if you're doing horror, if you're doing superheroes, there's the trope elements that go with those particular genres, and we fans of those genres expect that. Yeah. So if you've got a book called Horror Story, we expect to be scared, or at least have some horror in it, which yours does in spades. But by the same token, the thing that keeps us reading is the characters. It's the characters that make this book work. For me, I loved them all. From the hero to his brother to the damsel in not so distress. All of them had relevance to what was going on, and I thought that was a really well observed piece of writing. from the
Great.
get-go. So well done on that.
Character comes first for me. I try to have fun or excitement or horror or whatever, but if you don't have a character that people can identify with, it's just going to be fluff. It'll be like a movie that you've forgotten 10 minutes after leaving the theater.
It'll be like a Zenoscope book. I mean, I didn't say that. That's fine. I noticed you said no comment, which is a very wise thing to say. Right. We're getting near the end of the show. Michael, this is your 30 seconds to tell us why people should be backing your project.
Well, I think you did a pretty good job of analyzing it. You're like an English teacher. You're pulling stuff out that I didn't even realize that I did.
Okay, yeah. So go back, listen to the pod, and do what I say. Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, Johnny. It's a good book. I mean, it doesn't hurt that I had Ron Mars be the editor, because I want to I want to make sure that I'm not just spitting into the wind when I write something. I like to have Ron has edited a lot of my stuff. He edited Riot Earp and Golden Years. Key Champagne edited Metalhead for me. I'm not just flying blind when I'm putting this stuff out there, and I'm trying to make everything as high quality as possible, from the story to the art to the colors to the lettering to the paper it winds up being printed on. You're going to get your money's worth and then some.
Cool. Excellent. If you're interested in the project, there's the link. Yes, I know it's a long link. No, there's nothing I can do about it. It's Kickstarter. So it's simple. All you got to do is head over to Kickstarter, type in horror show, and guess what happens? Ta-da! Magic. Yeah, either that or the link will be in the notes below, so you can click that after the show. You have your own website, stridernolanmedia.com. This is where all your previous works are going to be digitized, and people can get in touch.
And not just my stuff, but we publish other people's stuff too.
Let me make a note. I have an idea.
Good. I'm always open.
And also, don't forget to check out Michael on Twitter. Yes, I'm calling it Twitter. No,
so do I.
It's never going to be X, but it's at StriderNolan13. There you go. Excellent. Michael, it's been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. 20 days at time of recording. You'll be in the midst of shows and promos. So thank you so much for spending the time. I really do appreciate it.
I had a good time.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you did so. I love the book. I think the book reads fantastic. It looks great. The pacing's spot on. There's some twists in there that I didn't expect. So well done. Well done.
Thanks.
Well done.
Thank you.
If you want to check out other shows on the UCPN, don't forget to check out. You saw the trailer for it earlier, the Definitive Crusade for all you DC fans. For all you Marvel fans, you have the No Price podcast, which features the ever-growing 2-minute warning. And as mentioned earlier, if you like comics of a certain vintage, check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics are very much so. Before you go, Michael, have to ask, time of recording, we're still a few days away from the Super Bowl. So who have you got? Who have you got this year?
It's a tough choice. I'm rooting for Kansas City, even though they beat my Eagles last year, because I don't like the Niners.
Fair enough. That's a shout. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to run all over Kansas.
Right.
I think the Niners will be like, run the ball to keep Mahomes off the field, and that way, that's control the clock, control the game. That's
right.
What I think.
Yeah.
That's what I think. But
Chiefs D is better than you think, though.
Is it?
Yeah. They've really come on the last quarter of the season.
I think the offense against Baltimore they played within themselves.
Mhm.
Instead of going for the big plays, it was like, let's just get the first down. Let's keep moving the chains. Let's keep running the clock. That way we have to force Lamar Jackson to throw the football. And you saw what happened. He threw the triple coverage for the interception. So I think whoever controls the clock wins the game. In this game, at least. I mean, hell, it's not the Miami Dolphins who can score in 3 seconds flat and then give up 50 points, which is my team, by the way. Thank you.
Right.
All right, there you go. Football and comic books all around. That's us for another show. Michael, thank you again. Really do appreciate it. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Everybody else, check out the Kickstarter. Enjoy the book. That's how that works. I have been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes, and as always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.shop, all about comic pop culture.